We've been talking about meltdowns for the last few weeks, identifying what they are, what the cycle is, and what can trigger them. Now let's take a look at how we can intervene during that rage stage and how to prevent more meltdowns when things are calm. Welcome to my Spectrum Life podcast. My name is Jessica and I'm an autism mom. With me tonight is, as always, is my good friend Kelsey.
Hello, how are you?
Doing great.
Good. So thank you for having me. I'm Kelsey, a special education teacher with a master's in behavior. And tonight we're going to be talking about that rage stage and how to intervene and possibly prevent more meltdowns in the future.
Yeah. It's kind of an interesting thing to dive into. And when we were talking about this prior to, we basically identified two categories, basically, of our redirect or distractions, as you may call them. And that's so the redirect or distractions that we have, and some of the examples of them are that fall into this category. So a redirector, can you actually define what a redirect is?
Redirect is for you are pretty much redirecting the child to do something else, is another way to say no. So for example, if a child is doing like coloring and you want him to write, you could say, hey, let's color, but let's do this right. Or we could try this instead, and just totally redirect them into what you want them to do. It's a easy way to get them to do things that they don't want to do. So redirect is a big thing.
Yeah. I constantly find myself redirecting. And then distraction is always, we all know what a distraction is, right?
Correct.
So here are some examples of redirecting or distraction. Now, there is a caution on the first one, which is humor. You got to make sure you're really good at it. And you got to make sure that if the child is in that rage stage, they know that you are not laughing at them. That's kind of hard.
That is hard.
Another thing to do is to remind them, like one of the things, like if you're in school, I guess, would be more of the thing. Or, we all use, one of the things we like to use a lot are visual schedules. So remind of the routine. Does that help at school?
It does help. There are times where they're like, Miss K, I don't want to do this. I'm like, hey, but remember, after this, we get to do this, this, and this. So let's go ahead and get this and this done. And a lot of times they're like, okay, and they get it done. And knowing what's coming next kind of helps them out and helps settle that anxiety.
Oh, I guess we're not really, I actually miswrote that. It's in the rumbling stage that we can intervene, because you can't direct anybody during the rage stage. Oh my goodness. What am I thinking? Okay, so I'm correcting myself now. These are the interventions that you can take during the rumblings stage.
Correct. So rage is, we'll get to that.
Yeah. Anyway, so the redirecting, sometimes we can distract them with a preferred activity or item if they're rumbling and you can see that it's about ready to go into a meltdown. One of the things that we've started using, we don't call it a cool zone or a home base per se, but Curtis has this specific little area. So we built this bed for him. It's a loft bed. It's a really high loft bed. And underneath the stairs, we built a little room, and he likes to go in there, and it's just his little area and it's cozy. And so we'll tell him to go up to your little room if we see him rumbling too much, so he can kind of calm himself down. Do you have like a zone or area that you use in the classroom sometimes?
We do. I have like two camping chairs, so they'll go in and go sit on a camping chair. And then I have a kidney table that's like in a little nook, but they can still
Hmm.
see the board and they're still part with me, just like their camping chairs. But it's enough to get away from the crowd of our classroom, and they just go stand over there and just kind of, when they come back, they just quietly sit down and they're ready to go
Hmm.
back to what they were doing. And then I take that time to catch them up while I get the others on a different page.
Hmm.
So.
So yeah, these are things to use in the classroom, in therapy, and wherever you're at. And as parents, we got to know this kind of stuff so that we can use it, because 9 times out of 10, these meltdowns happen when the therapists or school is over and there's nobody there.
Yeah.
So it can be hard. Um, the next one is sometimes I think walk, don't talk. You use that a lot, don't you?
I do. We call it a walkabout at our school. So the
Hmm.
paraprofessional in the classroom will like, hey, let's go take a walkabout, and they will go run errands, or they'll
Hmm.
just go down, walk the track, and come back, and just give them enough time to like deflect and center themselves. And sometimes they end up talking to the paraprofessional, which is really good
Yeah.
because when they come, they're ready to talk to me, and I'm able to intervene and
Hmm.
do what we need to do.
Yeah, I think that the physical activity or getting out into a different area can be extremely helpful. I know for Curtis, it helps him to go on the back porch, and sometimes I'll be like, "Go watch birds for a minute," and he likes to go out there and just stand there and watch the birds.
It's calming.
Um, yeah, for him, it's really calming. What's disconcerting is this has happened to me once. We have lots of trees and squirrels. And one morning I could hear the chattering, and then some nuts were thrown at me, and more chattering and nuts thrown at me. It was quite comical. Curtis keeps trying to get the squirrel to come back and throw things at him, but it won't.
That's
I think it
funny.
I think it knows that he's a friend of nature, and the squirrel just didn't like me for some reason. I don't know.
I don't know.
Um, anyway,
That's good.
okay. So off of the silly little side story that can happen when you're which is good for him. It's just his place, his realm. They know him out there, even the birds and the squirrels.
Right.
Um, so the rage stage is where, and sometimes we can redirect, or sometimes we do have to use the next one during the rumbling stage.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I know I've had to do it several times when Curtis has tried to. He's been in the rumblings in a store or at church or something like that, and I knew that something was coming, and I didn't want him to make a scene. That's when I would remove him from the area. Um, and most of the time, I've always had to remove him from the area. I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking that remove the other children is more of something that would happen typically more at school, correct?
Correct, because we are instructed by the district, and it's just safe practice
Hmm.
not to remove or touch the child who is pretty much in a rage stage, destroying things and things like that. And your
Yeah.
ultimate concern is not only keeping that child safe, but keeping you safe and keeping the other children. So it's a lot easier to
Hmm.
remove the other children all at the same time, moving desk where it's out
Yeah.
of reach for this child who's in the rage stage, and just
Well, and
try to.
it's best not even to touch the child when
Mm-mm.
they're in a
We're not
rage
allowed to.
stage.
We're not allowed
I
to.
I know that when Curtis has had his moments, I don't even touch him because I know it's not even worth it.
Mm-mm.
It could make things worse
Yeah,
rather than
we try
help.
not
So,
even to do the CPI. If we
mhm,
can avoid CPI, crisis prevention intervention, I think it's what it's called, CPI. We try
mhm,
not to do that, like, because first of all, it looks
that's
like restraints, but
yeah.
it's
It's
not. But
that's only in extreme, extreme,
extreme.
extreme. Like,
That's when the SR officer has to get involved.
yeah. So that has to be really, really, really bad. And I did say really 3 times because I meant it.
Yeah, but normally it's not that bad at school because a lot of times you have trained
Yeah.
professionals that really try to help them out before they get to that point.
Hmm. Well, it's good to know that you know those intervention things that you can do. And as parents, then we can actually start using these intervention strategies before we get to a rage stage so that we can hopefully, prevent that from going that far.
Right.
But I think the biggest thing that as parents and probably as professionals that everybody wants to know is how can we prevent them?
Right.
And I would say the very first thing that had come up into I've been, of course, we're still in the same two books that I was reading last time, and I have Autism, No More Meltdowns by Jed Baker, and High Functioning Autism in Difficult Moments. The links to both of these are in the description below. I have learned a lot from these two books. I really have. And one of the first things that they talk about is know your child.
Right.
And that's really important. And the only way we can really know our child is the only way we ever know anybody is to spend time with them.
Correct.
And I'm speaking to myself as much
Mm-hmm.
as anything. I know I need to spend more time because, my son's growing older and things are changing. And so I need to spend time with him. Although today we were sitting and doing school and Curtis was trying to hurry up and get stuff done. And I was like, okay, we cannot have you hurrying just so you can go play video games. Well, Mom, you have to come and practice with me because you have to get better at using these controls. So you have to come practice. So I'm going to do it. I will practice with him because that's what he's really enjoyed me playing, Minecraft with him, even though I'm horrible at it. I am absolutely horrible at it.
He doesn't care. He just likes the time spent with you.
Yeah. And I think that's something that, as parents, we forget because we get so caught up. I mean, how many movies are made about the child with the parent who is so caught up in their career or whatever, and how something happens and the parent realizes they need to spend more time with their child. It's still a reminder we need to know today. And you also brought up something that pertains to knowing your child.
Correct. It's also knowing how to talk to them, because it will change.
Yeah.
So how you talk to a 6-year-old is going to be different how you talk to a 10-year-old.
Right.
But even if they're the same age, from month to month, it might change. Prime example, I know my kids to the point, and I'm still learning some of their stages, because it takes time.
Right.
But I know certain words will help them at certain points, and then if that doesn't work, I have to change my verbiage to get them to what I want them to do, and they don't realize that I'm charming them or tricking them in some sense. But just knowing how to talk to them helps. Like, for example, I have a couple kids who are reprimand, whereas two other kids, I joke with them sarcastically because that they connect better that way. So just knowing their personalities and knowing what you cannot say makes a difference. And then knowing how to talk to them is also what environment you're in. For example, if I'm at a football game, I'm not going to talk to you about what you're missing with me and my class. I'm going to say, how's everything going? How's the game going? I'm actually going to separate academics and what's going on in the classroom and get to know you, because you're going to gain a lot more respect from them because they're like, wait, you made me feel valued. You're not all about academics. You know that I'm messing up in school, but we're not at school right now, so you're not going to talk to me about that. So just kind of knowing how and when.
Yeah, that's one of the things that hit me too, like a ton of bricks, because my kids are in that tween teen stage where they're
middle school is middle school is hard.
The sassiness is about to drive me insane. So I have to know how to talk to him, because my daughter is she's so tenderhearted, in
Right.
a good way, but so tenderhearted to where I have to make sure that sometimes I forget as a mom how tenderhearted she is. And I will make some snippet remark and it doesn't help.
Right.
It doesn't. And so that's part of the thing of where you've got to really know your kid and how to talk to them. Um, Another thing is to know your child's abilities.
Right.
Um,
Yes.
um, this one has been really, really weighing on me right now, um, because I know that regression is possible. And it
Mm,
doesn't have to be the regression into from verbal to nonverbal, because that is a
right.
thing.
Right.
Um, but it can be regression in just the skill level, correct?
Correct. Academics, behavior, you name it.
Um,
Emotional, social, things that they've
uh,
been working on, and you're at a critical point and something happens to stop it, they're going to
mhm.
regress right back.
And that's why I know I always tried to do my best to talk when we were still living in South Carolina and you were a therapist. We talked a lot about what was going
A
on
lot.
because we need to know the progress
Correct.
um, of what the abilities were. And I know one of the things that um, I think on Tuesday, or not Tuesday, tomorrow is Tuesday. I sometimes tape on Tuesday for Wednesday. Um, I'm going to be talking about this one because one of the things we got to understand is there's a huge possibility that our kiddos have regressed quite a bit this
Hmm.
year alone. So, I mean, changes. It's just crazy. Um, and the last big part of prevention is to figure out that to be a detective, I guess.
Yes,
We
you're going to
must be
be inquisitive. You're going to be the problem solver.
So we have to discover the why behind the meltdowns.
Correct.
But the biggest thing is, well, okay, so why do we have to find that why?
Because ultimately their behavior with their meltdown is a form of communication to you. They are trying to tell you something that they couldn't tell you before, and
Mm-hmm.
they're trusting you to figure it out to help them so it doesn't happen again. So
Mm-hmm.
meltdowns are actually a form of communication in a way.
Now, isn't all behavior a form of communication?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Mhm. It
And
is because we
that's,
have nonverbal, verbal behavior, you name it. You can I'm not gonna get into it, but
yeah,
it is.
it is. And that's something that it's more, we have to, I think, uh, uh, check me if I'm wrong here,
Okay.
with our kids on the spectrum, it is we have to look more at that behavior a little bit more than we would pay
With the
attention
typical.
to because they can't necessarily use the words.
Correct. Mhm.
They can't find the words to say.
Mhm. And
I was
you use it
really
with your typical with your 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds. You naturally do it when
right.
they're babies all the way up to 3 or 4 years old because you're
Mhm.
ultimately looking at what's because they react to you and they couldn't talk
Right.
professionally enough or tell you what's feeling inside because they're just beginning to learn.
Right.
So you do use it at these younger ages, but with your neuro or with your those who are on the spectrum or have a disability, you continue that throughout their whole entire life.
Yeah.
It never stops.
Yeah. I mean, I was actually really proud of Curtis today. He was trying to find the words, and I thought he didn't know what. I was kind of trying to quiz him over a science lesson before he took a quick check. And he said, "No, Mom, I'm trying to find my words."
Oh wow.
I was really
Wow.
impressed.
I'm
So,
impressed.
and
It's a small thing.
there can be a regression in some skills, but um, uh, a growth in other
Progression.
areas, right?
Yes.
That's what
Mhm.
I'm trying to say.
Yes.
With my hands going up and down that people who are just listening can't see. Yeah.
Is never a straight. line and is never a straight upwards. It's always up, down, up, down, up, down.
Yeah. Yeah. So we want to know this week, do you know what your child may be communicating to you with their behavior? Send us an email and let us know what you've discovered this week about your child and what they're communicating to you through whatever behavior it is. I mean, yeah, it can be some pretty crazy behavior to get to understand certain things, but whatever is their method of communicating to you, as long as you know what they're saying, that's what's important. Let us know by sending us an email at info@myspectrumlife.com.
You can also let us know at Facebook and Instagram at My Spectrum Life. You can message us there, comment, or you can find us at Twitter at My Spectrum Life with the number 1.
And always make sure, if you had found some value in tonight's podcast, or whenever you listen to the podcast via YouTube, where you can subscribe, and we hope that you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can know when our videos go live on Wednesday and Friday of this week. But we also just hope that everything, you will be able to find us in all these avenues and communicate with us, because we really want to know how these things are helping you. Whether it's this episode of the podcast or some previous things that we've said, drop us a line, give us a direct message, comment. We really look forward to hearing from you. But always remember, with a lot of faith, love, and boy, do we need a lot of them fidget toys, we can make it. Good night, everyone.